Man, I took my earpiece off.
I'll fucking reach.
Man, you need to put your weapon down. You need to put your weapon down, man.
I'm not gonna do nothing.
Hey, you need to get over here, senior. He's got his weapon at me and he's shaking.
What's going on right now?
It's nothing going on. Deputy, he's got his weapon pointed at my head. I haven't done a thing. He came up here, he put his hands on me. I asked for a watch commander. He's pulling his weapon on me. For what? For what?
I told you what for.
For what?
You're not listening to my commands. Not that I know of.
For what? What is he pulling his weapon on me for? I asked for his watch commander. You the sergeant.
Keep your hands on the steering wheel. Put your hands on the steering wheel.
Hey, your guy
Put your hands on the steering wheel.
Your senior sergeant there. Would you tell him to drop? Why is your officer cursing at me? Why is your officer cursing at me?
Just do what he tells you.
Excuse me, sergeant. My hands.
Of the Devil in Blue, A Few Bad Apples, Deception. This is part 2, talking about these fucking police. So this is part 2, and we gonna get straight away to this because we got a lot to cover in this part 2. So thank you guys for whoever saw part 1, part 2. Please comment, please give me opinions, email me, whatever. TJThroughTheFirePodcast@gmail.com, or comment on the video or the live about what you're thinking about what I'm saying. And I do understand that, we got a lot of people, especially white people, who are in love with the fucking police department. Good luck to you. Good luck to you with that. So let's get going. All right, listen. Black folks, do me a favor. Please do me a huge favor. And I'm not being hyperbolic. I'm not being overly dramatic. I'm just not. But do me a huge favor and stay the hell away from police officers. Having any form of direct or indirect interaction with police officers is a threat to your life, your livelihood, the security and the safety of your family. I say this because the stakes are just too high. I honestly don't understand what we have to gain as a people to have any interaction on any level with the police. I know that white people would say that we got something to gain or something to benefit from law enforcement. But I have learned not to give a damn about what they think. And I'm no longer in the business of trying to find ways to get them to understand a perspective that they have no interest in understanding. Black people need to come to terms with one simple fact. When it comes to law enforcement issues, white people do not give a damn. They do not give a damn what happens to you. They do not give a damn how they treat you. In fact, most whites believe when law enforcement or a police officer gets violent with you, most white people mean that you, as a black person, did something for them to behave that way, and they believed you deserve it. And when you try to explain yourself or explain the nuances or explain the interactions to these white folk about black policing with black folk, they all ask the same dumbass question, which is, why didn't he or she just simply comply? So for me, it's useless to try to explain something to a group of people who think the violence used against us, we brought that shit on ourselves. Now, I understand what we have to lose with each potential encounter with them people. When I say them people, them police officers, which is what I want to be talk about today, because the stakes, they're just too high, So let me address again the argument with the just comply. Just comply. Just comply and everything will be all right. Just comply and you won't get killed. Just comply, they won't put you in a coma. Just comply, they won't fracture your neck. Just comply. All you got to do is just comply. Many white conservatives argue that if black people just comply with the police officers, they won't face any problems. Now, on the surface, this might seem like a reasonable argument, but it's an overly simplistic way of putting things and ignores the realities of how police function in relation to black folk. While compliance with police orders is generally a good idea, it can sometimes prevent a situation from escalating. There's no real guarantee for safety, especially when you're talking about black people being involved. Compliance with law enforcement, if you black, does not mean that they will not unalive you, break your neck, be violent, and degrade you at their will. It does not mean that they won't do that. And we're going to give you many examples of this. Now, many cases, many public high profile cases highlight that even when black people do comply with the police, they tend to still face violence, mistreatment, and even death. It also assumes that compliance will always be met with fair treatment, which isn't the case the majority of the time. High-profile incidents like the death of Philando Castile in Minneapolis, who was shot while complying with an officer's request to show his ID, or let's not forget about Elijah McCain, who was killed after simply walking home from a store. Those two, just in a nutshell, just highlight how compliance does not guarantee that these murderous thugs won't snuff you out. These cases also are not isolated incidents, but they're a part of a broader pattern where black people are often treated as threats and our lives are just simply disposable. The just comply narrative also is disingenuous because it shifts the blame away from the actions of the police, and they put it puts what happened to the individual onto the people that they victimized, and not the actions of the police violence committed by that officer when the person was just simply complying. And by suggesting that compliance is the sole factor determining the outcome of an encounter, this narrative implicitly blames black folk for the violence perpetrated against us. It overlooks like the responsibility of the officers to exercise restraint. When you have the authority, it's incumbent on you to exercise a higher level of ethical behavior. But these murderous thugs that y'all call law enforcement, they are violent by nature. And let me point out one other quick thing to you. The individuals that make up the law enforcement community, that make up law enforcement or local policing, these people are not smart. These are very dumb people. They're lowbrow, dim-witted, borderline have intellectual disability with a neurochemical imbalance, in my opinion. These are the dumbest people on planet Earth. The law enforcement is filled and littered with not bright people. They're dim. I wouldn't even call them Neanderthalic because I think that's an insult to the Neanderthal. These people are slow. They have the processing capacity of a 3-year-old. You know what? There might be an assault to a 3-year-old because I know 3-year-olds who have very good processing capacities, but police officers do not. They're stupid. They're stupid people who have no business in our field. And because the law enforcement agencies, you know, they roll through with unchecked authority, they just bring in the dumbest, dimmest people who are actually bright, people who actually offer a service to the community and society. They don't become police officers. They don't. They go do something more noble. Now, let me tell you something. Yeah, they dumb. All these people are stupid. Most of them are illiterate at best. Most of them probably had IEPs when they were in school. Most of these police officers, if you go back to their elementary, middle school, high school, they were in the special ed courses. Those were the slow children in the class, in the school. The ones that we used to have to, be extremely nice to and be mindful of and need to be protected because their elevator didn't quite go all the way to the 10th floor. It usually stopped around floor 3.5. I've never encountered a smart police officer or a bright one. They mostly are dim-witted. Now look, the danger of blaming the victim, and I don't even want to call us victims, but a victim blaming or blaming the person that had the violence committed against them, we're talking about black people, it's a harmful practice that obscures the true cause of police violence. It perpetuates the fact or the notion that the actions of black people are inherently suspicious and deserving of the violence that is bestowed upon us, by law enforcement. And this narrative undermines cause when we talk about accountability. It falls on deaf ears because the system, white people, and some dim-witted black people believe believe that, say,
That major outrage this morning after a behavioral therapist was shot by an officer after he held his hands in the air, lying on the ground, his patient with autism sitting right nearby. ABC's Gio Benitez has more on this story. Good morning to you, Gio.
Amy, good morning to you. That new video taking social media by storm overnight. The unarmed black behavioral therapist shot by police on the streets of Miami. And police say it all started when they got a call about a man threatening suicide. Watch, just moments before the shooting, you can see 47-year-old Charles Kinsey, his hands raised in the air. The video released overnight by his lawyer. Kinsey in the yellow shirt works at an assisted living facility. And the man at his feet is a 23-year-old with autism who ran away from the group home. Listen as Kinsey talks to police. Kinsey even tries to calm the young man with autism. At some point, one of the officers shoots Kinsey, but he survives and speaks with Fox station WSVN from his hospital bed, recounting what he told that officer.
And I'm telling him again, sir, it's no need for a firearm. I'm unarmed. He's an autistic guy. He had a toy truck in his hand. When he hit me, I'm like, I still got my hands in the air. I said, no, I just got shot. And I'm standing there, I'm like, sir, why did you shoot me? And his words to me, he said, I don't know.
Video of the actual shooting hasn't been released, but this is the moment right after. And this morning, Kinsey is expected to make a full recovery. The North Miami Police Department has placed the officer on administrative leave, and the local state attorney's office is now investigating Amy.
Gio, this is so hard for people to get their heads around after all that has happened. Have the police there admitted that now they know this was a therapist and his patient? Where does this investigation go?
Yeah, absolutely. They acknowledge he's an ALF employee. They acknowledge the other one is a young man with autism. And that's why, Amy, this is going to be a very serious investigation. A lot of people asking, how could this happen?
A lot of people, Gio. All right, thank you.
Asking how could this happen? Really? For real? So we want to pretend like we don't know what the magical thing in the room was that caused this cop to shoot this man who's complying, laying on the ground with his hands up, please don't shoot. And the police officer shoots his black ass anyway. The other notion that goes along with the just comply is the few bad apples argument. When police chiefs, when law enforcement leadership use the phrase a few bad apples to describe incidents in police misconduct, it feels like it's a way to downplay the severity of the problem. The phrase suggests that the issue of these murderous thugs is just limited to just a few individuals within the force. You know, rather than acknowledging that these incidents might be a bigger, deeper problem within the department. When these murderous thugs go do what you train them to do, which is murder and terrorize black people, these law enforcement leaders like to distance themselves from the shit that they actually trained them to do, encourage them to do, talk about doing, joke about doing, laugh about doing, award them for doing, which is killing black people. When they get public heat from this, then they want to distance themselves from that officer that they basically wound up to go do. Not to mention that the officer is a dim-witted bastard to begin with. Just in the video, when the man said, "Officer, why did you shoot me?" Oh no, that's with somebody who's a effing artard, which, you know, YouTube, you can't say retard, so you gotta say artard. Many blacks have been disproportionately borne the brunt of these murderous thugs And these so-called few bad apples, or the few bad apples narrative, is frustrating and it's dismissive, and it continues to help ignore the problem. And they ignore the problem because, let's be honest with you, law enforcement, the institutions of the United States, they fucking hate black people. They wish that the United States institutions, law enforcement, governmental agencies, they wish they had the balls to directly do to black people what Hitler did to the Jews. The United States government just don't have the balls to actually go through with it. But believe it or not, they want to do that to us. They want to. They absolutely want to. Black people live in a country where the country itself hates and wish for their demise and wish they would wipe us off the fucking face of the planet. They absolutely do. And we got these Negroes out here who want to align themselves with this institution. Look, the phrase "a few bad apples" originates from a saying, and the saying goes, "A few bad apples spoiled the bunch." You know, when police officers use this phrase, they always leave out the part spoiling the bunch. Instead of implying that these so-called bad officers with these dim-witted murderous thugs are isolated, and that few bad apples implies that the system itself is fine, but they leave out the spoils the bunch part. So look, when we talk about a few bad apples, it allows those in power to separate themselves from these people that they actually trained to do this. They're trained to be murderous thugs. They're trained to be murderous thugs against any non-white person. They're trained. And I believe, in my opinion, black people who are in law enforcement, they're trained to murder their own people too. They're trained into compliance to assimilate themselves into the structure, to become a part of the gang, and they come out here and they're even more brutal than the white officers. So just because they're a black cop doesn't mean that somehow that we get off the hook. No, we are more likely to be brutalized by one of our own than we are the white boy, actually. The worst cops out there are female and black. And don't let them be a fucking black female. You're really done for. The few bad apples shifts the focus from their culpability to the idea that if we just get rid of these, we shake out these few bad apples, that it'll solve the problem. But if these bad apples keep popping up, is it really just a few? Come on now. Come on now. You know, the few bad apples narrative, all that do is lets the general white people public, it gives them peace of mind to continue to ignore the fact that their institutions that they set up are fucking evil in its nature. White folk, oh, it's just only a few bad apples. Okay, we just get rid of them, everything will be fine. It'll just be fine. We get rid of a few bad apples. It's okay. See, just a few bad apples. Sorry you lost one for no reason, but we'll get rid of that one and then everything will be fine. The narrative helps white folks sleep good at night. It's to reassure the public, the white public, to make them believe that the institutional law enforcement isn't pure evil, which is what it is. There's nothing morally ethical or ethically redeemable about our law enforcement? Nothing. There's no such thing as a good cop, in my opinion. Nothing. And black people need to stay the hell away from them. Also, it's just frustrating talking about these people. Research, has shown that the police departments across the United States often have patterns of misconduct and abuse, and that are not limited to just a few individuals. For example, a 2016 report by the Department of Justice found that in Baltimore itself, that police department engaged in a widespread pattern of practice of deplorable conduct that violated the constitutional rights of the residents, particularly the residents in predominantly black areas. And this was not the result of a few rogue officers. It was the whole damn department. The few bad apples narrative serves as a shield, an additional shield for police departments from accountability. These people, the law enforcement field, they don't want to change. They don't want to do better. They want to fucking exterminate black people. But by framing misconduct as a result of just a few individuals, law enforcement agencies can avoid the fact they can continue to have this false public narrative that they're there to protect and serve. Instead of the reality that the institutional policies and practices of law enforcement is that to exterminate black folk. More than this lack of accountability is more than a systemic problem. It's a cultural problem within these departments. This few bad apples narrative, it fails to address the racial bias that exists within these departments. Because they don't want to. Let me tell you something. If as an institution, if they wanted to get better, they would. They don't want to. And when they sit up here and focus on individuals, these few bad apples, it's a way to actually shield themselves, and so they can continue to do this again just a few months later. The few bad apples narrative have a profound implication on a relationship between this murderous thug institution and black folks. Rather than them going out there and doing what their quote unquote mantra says for them to do, which is protect and serve, but they only protect and serve each other and the institution. This narrative just makes it impossible to come to a resolution between blacks and the police department. From a community standpoint, when the community don't trust the police, we are less likely to report any crimes. We are less likely to cooperate with any investigations. We have adopted the do not snitching policy. For what? These few bad apples narratives contribute to the erosion of communities. It makes them more unsafe, which then allows your governments to put more of these murderous thugs in your community. They're doing it on purpose. This is not something that's by happenstance. In black communities or black populated areas, the police are not seen as protectors, but they are the threat. They are more of a threat to us perceptionally. They are more of a threat to us than any murderous criminal living next to us. We understand, for the most part, how to operate with them. The biggest threat to black people, for black people, are the police. The police are not there to help us. That's the perception. They're there to harm. We don't have a track record of police helping or solving problems or issues. We have a track record of the police institution, harming, killing, destroying, maiming, degrading. That's what the history is, and that's what the daily experience is. This will never. Now, the repeated use of the few bad apples narrative in a few in the face of actual police violence against people of color, will continue to have mistrust towards law enforcement. And this mistrust is not unfounded, as a lot of white folk would like you to believe. It's based on a long history of abuse, of violence, of overreach by the hands of law enforcement. Like, for example, in Ferguson, Missouri, the shooting of Michael Brown uncovered the widespread corruption throughout the unlimited number. It's like 70-something different police departments in the St. Louis metro area, which is where Ferguson is at. It's unreal to have that many different law enforcement agencies. White police officers and their misconduct in these black communities in St. Louis, in the greater St. Louis areas, sparked widespread protest and civil unrest. That I'm not getting to what the Mike Brown murder was killing was justified or not. I'm getting into what it revealed about the damn law enforcement officers in St. Louis County, which is different than St. Louis City. St. Louis County has about 70 different police departments for one damn area. 70. I think it's like 72 different police departments, who all in the St. Louis County is predominantly African American. And if you didn't understand St. Louis County got poor, middle, and upper middle class black neighborhoods, which is unique in the country. Because it's large. We have millions of people that live in St. Louis County. Millions. With 72 different police departments. And with virtually all of them terrorizing poor, middle, and upper middle class blacks, terrorizing us all, irregardless of the economic. I live in a predominantly middle to upper middle class area in St. Louis County. Crime ain't an issue, but I'm surrounded by 6 different police departments. I walk out my door, I go out of my subdivision, and then I'm subjected to all of these damn different police departments just from going to my house to the grocery store. The use of the few bad apples narrative in this context only serves to further alienate community and to undermine the efforts of trying to somehow build some kind of relationship, which I don't know if that's possible. Let's hold on a second. Let's take a look at something real quick. I gotta upload this video. Let's take a look at this video. Hold on, I'm gonna upload a couple more real quick. We do that one and this one. Okay, let's take a look.
Go ahead and undo your seatbelt for me. I'm gonna have you get out. Just make sure there's no weapons.
I'm not about to get out the car.
I'm gonna tell you what's gonna happen, okay? You're an adult. I want you to kind of go with the program here. I don't want to have to do that.
Where's the proper call?
I'm gonna break your window if you want to play this game. We're gonna ensure there's nothing dangerous in this car, and
there's nothing dangerous in this car. I'm a black male.
I'm gonna make sure, okay?
John Bryan here, West Virginia civil rights lawyer. I've been driving for 25 years, and I don't think I've ever been pulled out of my truck, much less searched during a traffic stop. What about you? Let me know in the comments because I really am curious. But get this, if you're a black driver in San Diego, not only are you more likely to get stopped by the police, but you're also more likely to get pulled out of your car and get your vehicle searched. Almost 30% of black drivers get searched by the police in San Diego. And that's crazy. And that's just what happened to this man, Nicholas Hoskins. In fact, he was stopped 4 times since early 2023. Just this past March was the 3rd time. The officer told him his window tint was too dark. He didn't write him a ticket. Instead, the officer asked him where he lived, if he had a job, his plans for the next day, his phone number, his social security number, and he pointed out a speaker in the back seat that looked expensive. Then, last month, the 4th time, being recently stopped, Nicholas was on his way to get his son from the school bus stop when a cop pulled him over, walked up to his window, and you're about to see the controversial incident that followed that has sparked widespread outrage and prompted an internal investigation. Let's break down this video footage of what happened to Nicholas Hoskins and what this means for policing practices in San Diego. But before we get into that, I know that many of you are concerned, as am I, about platform censorship. One of the best things that you can do to fight against that is
this isn't just about San Diego. Like, San Diego is an isolated incident from this happening. Nowhere near is San Diego just the isolated incident. This crap happens in almost every city in the United States of America.
questions that were really demeaning, and they make you feel like, yeah, they obviously think you're a criminal. Why? So 4th time he's stopped again. He's just trying to pick his kid up from the school bus stop. And so the officers walk up to the car, and one comes up to the window and he says that you didn't come to a full stop at the stop sign. After a series of questions, yet another incident of these ridiculous questions, the officer asked him to step out of the car.
It's on the ID.
I handed it off.
Hoskins, H-O-S-K-I-N-S.
I can't hear you. It's loud.
H-O-S-K-I-N-S.
H-O-S-K-I-N-S. And your first name?
Nicholas.
I'm sorry?
Nicholas.
Regular spelling, N-I-C-H.
O-L-A-S.
And your birthday, Nicholas? Where are you coming from?
I just came from the park. I'm about to go pick my son up from school.
From the park? Which one?
South Crest.
Okay. Just hanging out, or
Mm-hmm.
what you got going on?
Nothing.
Nothing? Okay. What's your address, Nicholas? Is that a house or an apartment?
Apartment.
You do not have to answer where you going, where you coming from, what you've been doing. These are tactics for these fucking thug-ass, dim-witted bitches to escalate and to harm you. That is it. Fuck these motherfuckers. Don't talk to them at all. License, insurance, and some states or counties, they require your registration. You give them that and you say nothing else to them bastards. Nothing. Do not engage in conversation. Do not wink at the motherfuckers. Nothing. Because they are trying to ascertain, do they got enough information to murder you?
What's the number? What's a phone number for you? Sorry, what was the last score of the number? All right, Nicholas, anything in the car?
No.
No? All right, go ahead and undo your seatbelt for me.
You don't have to even answer that. Do you have anything? None of you. You don't have to answer any question. And I advise anyone, do not answer questions. You give them what they need for a traffic stop and you stop talking. You don't answer a single fucking question. Even if they arrest you, you don't answer a single question. You inform them, you are invoking your Fifth Amendment right to remain silent, and you sit your black ass there and shut the fuck up. You don't say nothing else. There's nothing left for you to say. You will not be able to talk yourself out of the brutality that's coming. You can only serve to hurt yourself more.
I'm gonna have you get out. Just make sure there's no weapons.
I'm not about to get out the car.
I'm gonna tell you what's gonna happen. Okay? You're gonna take your seatbelt off. You're gonna put your wallet in the center console.
You guys can have my ID back, and you guys can call your supervisor.
No, I'm telling you what's gonna happen. Okay?
I have 15 minutes to go get my son. He's getting dropped off at the bus stop at 4:30.
Nicholas, I'm gonna open the door. You're gonna undo your seatbelt for you. Okay? You're an adult. I want you to kind of go with the program here. I don't want to have to do this.
What is the probable cause for a search?
Unlock the door for me.
What's the probable cause for a search, sir?
Nicholas, unlock the car.
What is the probable cause for a search?
Over the next couple of minutes, Hoskins continually told these police officers that he didn't have any weapons, and he asked them to write him a ticket for the stop sign violation, and then he refused to step out of the car because he needed to go pick up his kid. But before a supervisor could arrive, the officer instead opted to smash the passenger side window out from Nicholas's car.
Where's the probable cause for a search?
I'm gonna break your window if you want to play this game. You want to go pick up your kid or not?
I want to, but I'm not stepping out the car.
Door.
I'm not a fourth waiver. I'm not about to get out. I'm not about to be searched.
Roll down the window or unlock the door.
I'm not about to be searched. Call your supervisor.
Undo your seatbelt and unlock the door. Here's what's gonna happen, man. I'm telling you what's gonna happen, okay?
Can you call your supervisor?
Shut the car off.
Can you call your supervisor?
They're on their way. Turn the car off.
The mistake he's making right now is, as unlawful as this shit is, as unlawful as this shit is, as vicious and violent and humiliating as this thing is, the mistake he's making is by not getting out of the car. Unfortunately, these son of a bitches got a right to pull you out. They do not have a right to search your car. If they come up to you want to search your car, you tell them no. If they do it anyway, without probable cause, without without a warrant, you go collect your cash. Any fucking civil rights lawyer will have a field day. Fuck these motherfuckers. They'll pay your car off for you.
Are you listening to me?
So I want you to get on camera. You guys are violating.
It's on my camera.
You guys are violating my rights and about to search me for what?
We're gonna ensure there's nothing dangerous in this car, and
there's nothing dangerous in this car. I'm a black male.
I'm gonna make sure, okay?
But I'm not a fourth waiver. You shouldn't have to make sure. I'm not a fourth. I know my rights.
I'm telling you what's gonna happen, okay?
I'm telling you that I'm telling you.
Get out of the car.
It's on camera.
There's no weapons or anything dangerous.
There's no weapons in the car.
Okay.
Call your supervisor. I know my rights. I'm not a fourth waiver.
Undo the unlock the car.
I am not a fourth waiver.
Unlock the door.
No.
I don't want to break this window.
No.
You understand?
You guys are gonna assault me then?
Turn the car off.
Are you going to assault me? I just want to get that on. Are you going to assault me? Are you going to assault me on camera?
Huh?
You can assault me. Go ahead. If you're going to assault me, go ahead.
I don't want to.
Because I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm driving. I'm on the freeway. You guys are pulling me over. Can I have my ticket and go? I know my rights.
I'm telling you what to do, okay? You need to listen to me.
I'm not a fourth waiver. I know it. You guys only have a right to search people that are fourth waivers.
This isn't a fourth waiver thing going on.
What is it to search for?
I told you.
What is your probable cause for the search? Because I'm a black male?
Huh?
Am I a black male and I'm getting pulled over because I'm a black male?
Nothing to do with it.
You guys aren't pulling over any other cars?
Unlock the car. We're gonna break the window. This is your last chance.
I guess you're gonna have to do that. I want you guys to violate my rights and do all this, get it on camera, so I can sue you.
This doesn't need to happen, man.
It doesn't need to happen. You guys don't need to search me. I'm about to go pick my son. I'm a law-abiding citizen. I'm a tax-paying citizen. I'm not on paperwork or parole. I'm not doing anything wrong.
Go ahead.
Break your window.
I'm getting out. Unlock the car.
I'm getting out.
Undo your seatbelt.
You guys just broke. You guys just
put your left hand behind your back.
You guys just broke my window and
put your right hand behind your back.
You guys just violated my rights.
Alright, cuffs are good.
There's like a bag behind him.
Watch your head. Take your hands off.
Officers handcuffed Nicholas and ultimately drove him to the police station downtown before releasing him. After searching his car, police gave him a ticket for resisting arrest. Hoskins told the news media that it cost him about $1,000 to get his car back from impound and replace the smashed window, and that it doesn't really work now. Now let's pause here and talk about your constitutional rights. Under the Fourth Amendment, you're protected against unreasonable searches and seizures.
This fella, if you guys don't remember, is a lawyer. He's a civil rights lawyer who sued who makes his bread and butter on suing these murderous bastard Constitution illegal these criminals. He sues these criminals all the time.
This means that police need reasonable suspicion to stop you and probable cause to search your vehicle. Without either, any evidence that they seize might not hold up in court, or shouldn't anyways. In Hoskins' case, he knew what was happening, that the cops wanted to search his car, not because he had done anything wrong, but because they were racially profiling him and fishing for evidence that they had no legitimate reason to believe existed. In response, Hoskins asked what the officer's probable cause was. Probable cause is a key term during these interactions. It means there's a fair probability that contraband or evidence of a crime could be found in the place being searched. The officer's actions without this probable cause would be considered unconstitutional. Remember, when the officers were asking all the questions, those questions were designed to elicit probable cause.
That's why you say nothing. Those questions seem so innocent on their face. Oh, where you going? Oh, where you coming from? What park was that? Oh, what were you doing there? That's all to get you to find a reason to do what they did, to violate you. Most of these male cops are fucking homos. They just want to go out and rub on your dick. That's what they want to do. Most of them are a bunch of fucking homos. Oh, I can't say that on YouTube. They part of the Rainbow Coalition. I'm sorry, YouTube. I can't help it that police officers are nothing but that they're gay. They like men, and they stop men, black men, so they can fondle black men. That's all they want to do. All they do is essay black men on the side of the road. Homos, this is my opinion.
To take it to the next step of pulling Nicholas out of the car and then searching him and the car. But they got nothing. Even though they got nothing, they did it anyways. And in doing that, the officers violated Nicholas's Fourth Amendment rights. When Nicholas asserted his rights, that somehow got him charged eventually with resisting arrest, even though he wasn't under arrest. Nicholas had a First Amendment right to challenge the lawful authority of police to violate his rights. The fact that they charged him with resisting arrest is likely yet another constitutional violation called First Amendment retaliation, assuming he beats the charges. What about the fact that he refused to get out of the car when ordered to do so? As discussed in the last video, there are circumstances where police can order drivers and passengers out of the vehicle during a traffic stop, and even frisk them. However, it's not a blanket rule where they can do it in all circumstances. The Supreme Court has held that police officers may remove the occupant of a lawfully stopped vehicle and frisk that individual if the officer reasonably suspects that the individual is armed and dangerous. Along with that, the court has held that an officer may search the vehicle's passenger compartment when he has reasonable suspicion to believe that the individual is dangerous and might access the vehicle to gain immediate control of weapons. That's Arizona versus Gant. So there are some circumstances where even with
This is why when they fucking ask you if you're carrying a firearm, you say no. The worst thing that happened to Fernando Castillo was he was trying to be honest because he didn't want to die. All he had to do was sit there and shut the fuck up. We don't know how to shut the fuck up. And I'm not blaming us. I'm sending out a warning and a message to black people when you're dealing with law enforcement. Shut the fuck up. There's nothing you can say that's going to protect you from them. The only thing you can do by talking to them is get yourself in more harm. It can get you killed by talking to them. The only thing you need to do when you are in a car or passenger or driver, well, passenger, you don't have to identify shit. But what you got to do is, I refuse to answer any questions without a lawyer. I'm going to remain silent. And then the next thing is, I do not consent to any searches. Then you shut the fuck up. Because anything they do after that, you can go get a paycheck. You can go get a check.
without probable cause, police officers could order Nicholas out of the vehicle and frisk him and search the vehicle for weapons.
I don't know
and
why.
Perhaps that's what they were going to do here. But what evidence did they have
I have no
that
idea
he
why.
was dangerous? His skin color? And Mr. Hoskins' experience here does not appear to be unusual, according to police stop data that was published by the San Diego Police Department. This is data that they have to publish due to a 2015 state law, the purpose of which is to find out what role race plays during police stops.
100%
And that
wrong.
data showed racial disparities statewide and locally in San Diego. More than half of the people stopped are black and brown, even though most San Diegans are white. NBC7 in San Diego published a report looking at 666,406 police stops reported by the San Diego police over a 5-year period from 2019 to 2023. Of those almost 700,000 police stops, people perceived as black made up 22.5% of all stops, although only 6% of San Diegans are black. By comparison, Hispanic people accounted for 35% of stops, compared with their share in the city's population, which was only 30%. Nearly half, 46% of people stopped by San Diego police were white, but white people represented a larger share of the city's population, being 54.5%. Black people in San Diego were not only more likely to be stopped, but they were also more likely to get searched, according to that stop data. Nearly 30%, 27% of black people pulled over during traffic stops have their vehicles searched. When police stop Hispanic people, officers search them 23% of the time, while white people were only searched 19% of the time during traffic stops in San Diego. And despite those numbers, San Diego police officers were about equally likely to find anything illegal, regardless of race. On average, according to the data, officers only find something 25% of the time that they conduct a search. Hence, they're going on these fishing expeditions. So what is their response to that? I mean, we know what their response would be or is behind closed doors or in the locker room or in a bar. We know what the response would be. What is their public response to these numbers? Well, San Diego Police Captain Jeffrey Jordan told the news media that he acknowledged the disparity but said that the root cause is complex. I bet it is. Disparities, to be really clear, he said, is a difference in how communities experience policing. Jordan said, the studies that have been done are not associated necessarily with bias, racism, discrimination. They focus on disparities. Jordan told us that there are 4 different categories that play a role in the disparity. 4 categories: where officers patrol, policies about when to stop and search someone, and officer explicit or implicit bias.
The policy is if they're black, stop, search them, violate them, and then murder them. That's the policy.
i.e. racial profiling. However, there's not much, Jordan told the media, that the department can do about the 4th factor driving the racial gap: poverty and crime. That's where he means to say, in code, yeah, well, blacks are committing all the crimes, or the majority of the crimes. That's why they're being stopped and pulled over and searched more. So what's the response to that? What is the Constitution's response to that? Do we not realize that they're admitting that this is what cops do? They believe, whether true or not, that black people are more likely to commit crimes.
You heard that from the white man just now. The police, this white man who sues the police all the time, they believe in their mind the reason why they get to execute you, violate you, injure you permanently, disrupt, destroy, maim your life is because you niggas ain't worth shit, and you all, every single one of us, are degenerates. That's how they view us. And anyone who believes differently, who thinks that I'm lying. Well, I don't know. I don't need to finish that because everybody who watches YouTube are a bunch of fucking pussies and cowards anyway.
They go to black neighborhoods, not to respond to 911 calls or to look for drug dealers standing on the corner. They go to look for pretextual BS reasons to pull people over. running stop signs, taped headlights. Why? Because they believe that they are in an area with more black people, therefore more likely to be criminals, and all they have to do is get some BS reason to pull them over, and then they'll probably therefore find somebody who has a warrant, or they'll find somebody who smells like marijuana, then they'll get to search their car, or they'll find somebody who's making furtive movements or whatever, and they're not saying what they're really.
Somebody explain to me what the hell is a furtive movement and where the hell did that come from? Oh, he's jickety jerkety. He's twitching and twitching. We gotta kill him.
Doing, which is they want to catch more criminals, so they believe they're going to where the criminals are to stop people who look like criminals. I mean, they're admitting that they're racial profiling. Why are they doing it? For the same reason that they would admit privately, because it works. It does work. And here's where you have to step back and remember, why was our country created? Why do we have a Bill of Rights? Why do we have a Constitution? It is to protect us from government. We do not want to live in a society where police officers can most efficiently and most effectively solve crimes or catch criminals. We don't want to live there. If you want to live there, you can go to Singapore right now, or other authoritarian regimes. You can go to the Middle East.
Well, black people already live there. It's called the United States of America. We're already there, buddy. That's the disconnect between even a guy like here who doesn't understand that for black people, we're already there.
Where they execute people in like the town square.
Black people are already being executed in the public town square by law enforcement. They're already doing it to us. They're just not doing it to you. They're just not doing it to you. That's why you still believe that somehow that we don't live in an authoritative country where law enforcement can just seamlessly execute you on the side of the road for no reason. Black people already live in that country, and it's called the United States of America. It's just not happening to you guys yet.
Authoritarians, despots, tyrants, just like the redcoats, can be very effective at catching criminals, at enforcing criminal laws. That is not the purpose of our country. That's not the purpose of the Bill of Rights.
It doesn't matter what the purpose is. That's what's happening to blacks in this country every day. You know that, otherwise you wouldn't be in business. You wouldn't be making a living off the fact of what these cops are doing to mostly black people.
We have other priorities. That's not.
No, the priorities is to exterminate people of color from white people. White people want to exterminate people of color.
Not what we're about. It's not about efficiency. It's about treating everybody with fairness and respect.
That will never happen in the United States of America until you get rid of all these white people. Sorry.
And you could see in the video of Nicholas where maybe he'd been in trouble in the past, and I think he had. But he knew that he was being racially profiled here. He knew that he was being treated like a second-class citizen. He was a taxpayer, law-abiding citizen just trying to go about his day, to pick up his kid from the school bus stop, and here he's getting harassed by these cops who treat him like a criminal just based on the way he looks. There must not be enough crime if they have to all day, every day go looking for it. You know what? If some
their mission isn't to go look for crime. Their mission is to exterminate black people. That's their mission. Why don't we just call it what it is? Stop lying to people.
But he needs the cops that can call the cops, respond to calls. You want to cut down on this? Stop harassing people over dumb traffic violations.
They won't do that. Sorry, but they will not do that. So as much as we plead, that's not what's going to happen. Now, for black Americans, you know, the idea that police misconduct is just the result of a few rogue officers, you're right. That really obviously feels like a gross oversimplification. You know, this history has left many of black people with a deep-seated mistrust and fear of law enforcement, and a mistrust that is only reinforced when we see repeated incidents of brutality and misconduct being dismissed as just the work of a few bad apples. You know, the bad apple phrase is an excuse by focusing on individual officers rather than the system, and it ignores the policies and the culture that allow these extreme, violent, goonish thug behavior to occur in the first place. It also downplays the experience of those of us who have suffered at the hands of the evil empire, and suggesting that their trauma is a result of a rare and unfortunate occurrence rather than this being a widespread issue throughout the whole so-called profession. When law enforcement agencies fail to adequately address the actions of these quote unquote few bad apples, it confirms the impression that the entire profession is complicit in the behavior. We believe many high profile cases of misconduct that the offending officers, they were not immediately fired or prosecuted, and instead they were actually placed on administrative leave. You know what I mean? With pay. Some were allowed to resign, and some were allowed to resign quietly. You know, in some cases, a lot of these officers that either quit or resigned or not resigned, they either resigned or were fired. They were actually hired back by other departments. And this and believe it or not, these other law enforcement agencies that hire these people, they actually know what they did, why they left, and they hire them anyway. This is how I'm telling you guys that they're doing this crap test on purpose. This lack of accountability, it sends a very strong message that the police are more interested in protecting these thug ass animals than they are in upholding any sense of humanity. This is why they hire dim-witted people. You know, the perception of corruption for me is reinforced when we see instances time after time after time again that they practice this whole thing called the blue wall of silence when officers that violate, which is almost all of them, violate people and get caught violating people, they refuse to speak out against their colleagues. That's why I tell people that there is no such thing as a few bad apples. They're all bad. That's why they don't tell the whole story when they say a few bad apples. The entire quote is a few bad apples spoils the bunch. The blue wall of silence is the spoiled bunch. The blue wall of silence is the spoiled bunch. There is no such thing as a good cop. They can sit there, like in the case of Derek Chauvin, when they saw them choke out George Floyd with his knee on his fucking back of his neck. Even when they sit there and witness their officers providing misconduct, they'll sit there and say nothing. Them saying nothing is them being just as bad. They're bad too. They're awful. None of these fuckers. There's not a cop on the police force that is good. There's no such thing as a good cop. Cop and good do not go together. They don't go together. None. I said in my first stream on this topic that if I had a son and he became a cop, I would think I failed as a cop. I would feel like a failure that I raised such a dim-witted bastard who thought that joining that gang was a noble thing to do. The culture of silence and protectism can within the police force is united in covering up wrongdoing. That's what they do with each other. They cover up. So the blue wall of silence, the fact that is an open, known thing in this country, automatically lets you know that there are no such thing as a good cop. These police officers with their whole protect and serve bullshit, it's only a few bad apples. That's them playing in your face. They have no interest in doing what's best for the people that they're supposed to allegedly serve. They don't care about that. When it comes to dealing with police, especially black people, the stakes are just too high. Stay away from them. The history of policing in the United States, coupled with the ongoing reality of the bias and the violence, makes any interaction with law enforcement dangerous. This isn't about paranoia, it's about survival. Black people should seriously reconsider volunteering to interact with police in any capacity, because doing so can have life-altering, life-threatening, and life-ending consequences. Let me break it down to you in plain speak. Using real-life examples, research data to explain this case. I'm using real-life data. Do not, I beg you, black folks, when you think about interacting with police, calling the police, I beg you to reconsider doing so. I beg you to reconsider doing so. Now, despite decades of so-called progress, black people are still targeted by police at an alarming rate. And this just isn't anecdotal, it's backed up by data. Let's talk about the stop and frisk. When they studied stop and frisk, it showed that black people were twice as likely to be pulled over by the police or stopped on the street. And according to a 2020 report from the Bureau of Justice Statistics, black people are more likely to be searched during these stops, even though they are less likely to be found with anything illegal on them. In New York, during that controversial stop and frisk policy, black folks and Latinos were disproportionately stopped by police officers and subjected to humiliating searches for no reason, and most of the time found nothing. The overwhelming majority of the time, they found nothing. According to a study published in The Lancet, black people are 3.5 times more likely to be killed by a police officer than white folks. Your interaction as a black person with a police officer is more likely to lead to your death. Interacting with them, avoid these bastards at all costs. You know, the data and the stories that come out should make any person of color think twice about engaging with law enforcement. There's no good can come out of that. And we're not going to talk about the wrongful conviction rates of black folks, okay? And speaking of wrongful conviction, I'm not a big fan of this next clip that I'm going to pick, or the guy in the next clip, but I'm more interested in the story. So let's take a look at this story about that has to do with wrongful conviction or wrongful person and what they do.
Cop decides to put his gun to the head of a man after a mix-up. Here it is.
Put him in a cup.
What I do?
I got him. Just put him in a cup. I got you.
Stop reaching! I ain't reaching for nothing! Stop! How you great? Stop reaching for I can't breathe! Yo! Right here, right there. Yo! You reach back over the shoot. You just put in my bag! You put it in and I knew what to shoot!
I'm going to let that sit there for a second. I'm going to sit here, and let this sit there for a second. Look at that fucking white man's around that young man's throat and his fucking service weapon pressed up against his temple. Sit there with this for a minute, y'all. Sit here with this.
You put something in my pocket. 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 Turn around. You put something in my pocket. Turn around. You put something in my pocket. You put something in my pocket. You put something in my pocket. I got it.
I have more video. This case actually went into an investigative phase. The defense attorney, or the attorney for the alleged victim there, says, first of all, the stop was improper. There was no probable cause to effect any type of arrest whatsoever. So there's a lot of confusion by the individual who is being accosted and physically assaulted by the police.
With millions watching and many people benefiting from this program called Indisputable, we just need 1% of the viewers to become a paid member so we can continue to bring this content to you. Now back to the show.
There's more. Here it is.
Hold on 1 second. Come here. I'm clearing everybody out of here. Yes, sir.
Yo, he just put a whole thing in my pocket, bro.
It's all on camera.
Bro, right, it's on camera. You put it out of my pocket.
Put up the picture, full mass. I'm going to explain, try to clarify some of the chaos you see. The Baltimore State's Attorney Office, they decided on September 5th that they will not pursue criminal charges against a Baltimore detective who pressed his gun against the temple of a black man who was lying on the sidewalk and held down by other officers during an arrest. This arrest took place in May. Defense attorneys for Mr. Jamin Joyner, the 23-year-old man you see being arrested there. The attorney accused the police of using excessive force on Joyner and for stopping him without probable cause. Charges against Joyner were completely dropped, but the police officer's conduct is reportedly still under investigation by the local police department. Now, a video of the incident, which took place on May 23rd, captured by a body-worn police camera and first aired by WBAL TV News in July, showed a group of 5 cops. You got 5 police officers arriving at the scene in front of a corner bodega. This is in East Baltimore. The detective is Connor Johnson. Detective Johnson is the one who tried to restrain Joyner and place him in custody. The officers were responding to a robbery. It was a robbery in the area, and according to them, they were searching for a suspect described as a 6-foot black male wearing a brown hoodie and a ski mask. Joyner, who is about 5 feet 7 inches, was wearing a red and black shirt when he was detained by the department's district action team. Reported Baltimore Magazine. DAT is an 80-person unit created in 2017 after the police department disbanded its gun trace task force, whose members have been found guilty of racketeering, robbery, extortion charges, and who commonly stop people without reasonable suspicion or probable cause, according to the report in the magazine. So what did Baltimore PD do? They rebranded them. Yes, let's just give them a new name. Keep the culture. New name. There's more. Detective Phil. You got a guy named Detective Phil Polanco. Phil Polanco told reporters in July that officers were, in fact, trying to put Joyner in handcuffs when he got away and fled on foot before being apprehended. In the video, Joyner is shown twisting away from officers and briefly running before being grabbed and held down on the sidewalk. Quote, he's reaching for something. That's what Detective Christian Agard screams. You can hear it. Quote, I ain't reaching for nothing. Joyner responds. And one of the detectives presses his knee into the chest of Joyner, who then says, quote, I can't breathe. Officers begin to search his pockets, and Joyner screams, what did you just put in my pocket? And he put something in my pocket. Johnson then put one hand on Joyner's neck, pressing his face against the sidewalk, and took out his service weapon, putting the barrel of the Glock 22 to his temple for about 6 seconds before pulling the gun away and standing up. In their arrest report, officers said they found a handgun, 8 live 22 caliber rounds, a magazine, and a powdery substance they suspected to be heroin in Joyner's possession. The public release of the video led to a demand from the Police Accountability Board. That Police Accountability Board is in Baltimore City, and they wanted Johnson to be suspended. So let's go to an exacting policy dynamic in Baltimore that was helpful, at least to a degree. They have an accountability board. Some call them a citizens review board. If you don't have one in your local city, make sure you support individuals running for city council and county commission and mayor and CEO to get one and to make sure they have subpoena power. At least it provides transparency if there's no justice. Quote, I am sure nowhere in the officer training is it justifiable to point a gun at point blank range at the temple of an already subdued subject, said the board chairman of this accountability authority, Joshua Harris. Quote, mistakes like this have the potential to end lives or negatively impact them forever. He said and called for Johnson to undergo rigorous training on de-escalation and appropriate use of force and a firearm. These officers went over the top. This was unnecessary, unprovoked, and in the end, unacceptable. Tony Garcia, Joyner's defense attorney, told the Baltimore Sun, quote, they wanted to put an exclamation on their use of force, said Garcia. Not only is it excessive, but they wanted to imprint a mark of fear in his mind. That is unacceptable. That cannot be allowed to happen, end quote. Joyner's defense attorneys also complained that the police officers lacked probable cause to arrest their client, who did not match the description of the suspect they sought, and further noted that the victim told police at the scene of Joyner's arrest that he was not the person who robbed him. Police Commissioner Richard Worley defended Johnson's action, saying at a news conference in July, reported the Sun, saying he was out there doing his job. Okay, so they held him there. The person who was the actual victim of a crime, he comes by. He's likely in a police cruiser to do positive identification on the scene. They bring him there. He said, "Hey, you know what? That's not the guy." How is it that the victim was aware that's not the guy when the guy had on the ski mask? Well, remember, the guy was 6 feet tall and had on different clothes. The cops didn't understand that, obviously. There's more. Commissioner Worley said that he had been in a similar situation, or similar situations with an armed suspect trying to free his hands, and that, quote, you try to do whatever you can to get him in custody. You're scared. You're fighting for your life because you don't know what he's going to do. Joyner was charged with handgun possession or possessing a loaded handgun and drug possession. He spent 54 days in jail and missed reporting to a new job during that time.
54 days in jail for something he didn't do. And he was supposed to report to a gig, to a job to earn some money, to take care of himself, to continue to be productive, to continue to grow. And, oh Lord. Lord have mercy.
All of the charges were dismissed in July for further investigation by the Baltimore State's Attorney's Office. The officer's conduct in the incident was under investigation by the Baltimore police. Spokeswoman Lindsay Eldridge said at the time of the video's release in July, noting that one of the officers involved, they have already been suspended. Following the state attorney's office's decision not to charge Johnson, Baltimore Police Department will finalize its investigation of the incident for potential policy violations and recommend any administrative charges to the Administrative Charging Committee.
Suspended. And I guarantee you it's fucking with pay. I guarantee you it's with pay. But we're supposed to believe they're here to protect and serve us. That's what we're supposed to believe. Stay away from these people. Stay away from law enforcement. Stay away. They're here to hurt you, harm you, kill you, destroy you, embarrass you, humiliate you, destroy. They're here to destroy us. That's it. That's it. That's all. I need somebody to come up here and which will never happen because, I'm not part of the cool kids. I wish Officer Tatum or a pro cop nigga come up here and debate this. How in the world can you justify? Excuse me. Research consistently shows that policing in their perspective with people of color is all about their mission to exterminate us. A study by the Proceedings of National Academy of Science found that police officers are quicker to use deadly force against black people than anybody else. And another study by the American Psychological Association found that black boys as young as 10 are often seen as older Tamir Rice. Because the cop thought the cop that murdered Tamir Rice said that, I thought he was an adult, a 10-year-old boy. And none of us are safe. Not even a kid. Not even a 10-year-old kid is safe from being exterminated by the police. This bias isn't just isn't just in the moment. It's embedded in their culture. It's embedded in their policies. It's embedded in who they are as people. They lack the ability to be higher conscious thinking human beings. These people are dim-witted and slow. They suffer, in my opinion, from a profound mental health issues. Police officers are mentally unstable, in my opinion. And not only are they mentally unstable, but they're dim-witted. They low-functioning, low IQ, short bus, IEP people. These are people who need guardians themselves because they can't function appropriately. They're missing something in their development that makes them human beings. Most police officers, regardless of their race or nationality, they're trained to see black people as criminal that deserve less empathy and that they deserve to be exterminated because black people, by and large, are demonic criminals. That's how they see us. That's how they train their officers. That's how they base their policies and their behavior on. Isn't just a few bad apples. The whole bunch is spoiled. It's systemic. It's reflective of the attitude of the governmental institution of the United States of America and it's reflective of how this country has always viewed and will forever view black people. We have no business interacting with these fuckers on a voluntary basis. This is why it's so important to try your damnness to protect yourself. And one way is to avoid any unnecessary interaction with police whenever possible. Know your rights, but also be aware that even exercising those rights can lead you into a situation where they feel the need to exterminate you. If you must interact with police, try your damnness to have a witness and recording. I have nothing but, we'll get into that later. But above all else, prioritize your safety and your well-being. The humiliation that you may suffer at the hands of these motherfuckers, they're not worth your life. The reality is that the police are not always there to protect you. They're never there to protect you, especially if you're black. They're not there to protect you. The risk of interacting with law enforcement, the risk is just too damn high, and the consequences can be deadly, and they often are. And this isn't about living in fear. It's about being smart and understanding that the system you're dealing with, and that the history, the data, the real life stories all point to the same conclusion. Black people, you should be extremely cautious when volunteering to interact with the police. Your life is quite literally can depend on it. Everything points to the same conclusion. And this is not a fear-based stream. This is a reality-based stream right now. The relationship between blacks and law enforcement is deeply troubled. To call it contentious is an understatement. No. To call it contentious is an understatement. There is a significant body of evidence that highlights the disparities in how black people are treated by police compared to the white counterparts. According to a 2019 study published by the Proceeding of National Academy of Science, black men are 3.5 times more likely to be killed by a police than a white man. I said that already. That underscores and highlights the risk of black folks, what we face when we interact with these fucking thug ass demons. Stay away from them. Back to the stop and frisk data from New York. Black people in 2019, before they got rid of stop and frisk, were 60% of the people stopped were blacks. 30%. That's 90% of people. 30% were not Latino, 60% were black, 90% of the people stopped were people of color. There's like 8 million people in New York, and 90%, and most of them are predominantly white. But 90% of the people stopped and frisked and harassed were people of color. Even though the group total between blacks and Latinos, we make up less than 25% of the city. And the people that were stopped, over 58% of those were innocent and didn't have anything, and it just proved that this was just discriminatory in nature. Racial profiling in the United States is just as American as apple pie. Racial profiling in the United States is just as American as white boys being mass shooters at schools. Research from Stanford from their open policing project, they analyzed over 100 million traffic stops across the United States, and they found that black drivers were shock, more likely to be stopped, searched, and killed than their white drivers, despite black folk being less likely to be found with anything that is illegal. We are less likely to have any illegal substance on us, but we're stopped the majority of the times. We're searched, harassed, and murdered the majority of the time, even though we're less likely to be in possession of anything illegal than their white boys. The white boys are, they moving, yeah. This study illustrates the stark reality that black people, that the police are overly aggressive with black people. They want to exterminate us. I don't know which way to keep saying that. We don't really pose a threat to them, but they treat us like we're at war with them. It's a one-sided war. I don't know if I should go through more of these cases. You know, it's just not fear-based, like I said, why I'm saying this. It's fueled by the numerous of high-profile cases in the data where it shows police, they thrive on harming and killing black people. I'm not gonna go into the details of each of these cases, but I'm just gonna remind people. Eric Gardner choked out over some cigarettes. Philando Castile shot because he said, "I got a concealed carry permit." Breonna Taylor in 2020, the police officers did a no-knock warrant, which is illegal, in her home, and she was killed in the middle of the night because they just decided to kick her fucking door in. George Floyd. I'll be damned. I don't know. For many blacks, the sight of a police officer or the sound of their siren can trigger a fight or flight response. Most people don't know if we should fight or, I mean, there's an argument that you can make the argument that if you get a police officer gets behind you, I can make the argument that you should run. You stand a better chance of surviving that interaction by running. I can make that argument. I don't suggest you do that, but I can make the argument. And some people think that response is irrational. That's because they're white people. They think that's irrational. You have a right to protect your life, even against murderous thugs institutions like policing. You know, the fear of the police and what they do is passed down through black folks through generations. I don't know one person who has not had the talk, who've had it, and now who've had to give it to try to figure out some type of way for people to survive. And believe it or not, when you're having a police interactions, your job is to survive because they want to kill you. You can see it in their eyes, their body language, their demeanor. They want to kill you. These people come to you, they have no conscience because they see you as no different than a damn deer. It's open season for them. They just need any reason. You can raise your voice and they'll blow you the fuck away. They'll blow you away just by telling them no. Let me explain why avoiding and engaging with law enforcement is rational. One, given the historical and contemporary realities that I've outlined so far, it's not surprising that some black people, we choose to avoid engaging with law enforcement. The decision is not born out of some desire to break the law or evade justice or anything like that. Whether it's a rational response to a system that has consistently demonstrated that it wants to exterminate you. It does not value your life or anything connected to your life. It does not see you as an American. You are an intruder. Avoiding contact with law enforcement can be seen as an act. I believe it's an act of self-preservation. It's a way to protect yourself from the potential dangers that police officers will repeatedly show you on any given time, especially their willingness to violate and extract pain and pounds of flesh from your black body. You are nothing to them but fucking roadkill. Now, there is some negative consequences to avoiding law enforcement. There is. I'm not going to lie to you. So, while the decision to avoid or engage with law enforcement is understandable, it's not without some of its consequences. When communities do not trust the police, or when people do not trust the police, we are less likely to report crimes, cooperate with investigations, or even seek help. We'll just try to deal with it on our own. It actually can make you more unsafe, I guess. No, I don't believe that. I don't believe that. The decision to avoid law enforcement can contribute to, you could be socially isolated. If there are things going on in your neighborhood and you don't want to avoid the police, it could make the situations in your neighborhoods worse. I do understand that. The policing in this country proves the point that there are two different Americas. There's white folks, and then there's everybody else. And everybody else, you can be exterminated at the whim of what these white people say to make them comfortable. White people, when they are uncomfortable, they believe in exterminating you. The most dangerous place for a black person to be is inside the imagination and mind of a white person. You know, in some areas, you know, the fear compounded by the fact that law enforcement is often viewed as an occupying force in their area than a protector. In areas with high levels of poverty and crime, police presence is often associated with harassment. And I actually don't see a lot of police officers in high poverty areas in the St. Louis metro area. I actually don't see them. I actually see them in the more established, developed areas, more so than I see in low income. I think the police officers avoid those areas, and they only go there when they got to scrape up a body off the ground. They actually avoid them. They actually harass, you know, people who are just trying to live regular lives. That's my opinion. Do me a favor, everybody. Stay away from police. The stakes are too high.
Transport.
No, sir. No, sir. No, sir. I got.
You got ID?
No.
Put your hands up. Just put your get your hands up your pocket. If you stick your hands in your pockets again, I'm gonna take you to the ground. You understand that?
Yes, sir. I appreciate it.
It's for officer safety. Right now, I just want to make sure you don't have any weapons. Okay?
Yes, sir. Okay. I have no weapons.
Don't do anything stupid.
I have no weapons.
And welcome back to the Civil Rights Lawyer channel. That is Jim Rogers. There would be a federal civil rights lawsuit filed in this case that settled for $8 million. Jim Rogers was tased by this police officer who was investigating allegations of a stolen bicycle. He would be tased more than 10 times by this police officer and would die the next day. This body cam footage was sealed during the litigation, and it was just released by the Rogers family attorneys. This happened in Pittsburgh. This is police officer Keith Edmonds that you see talking with Mr. Rogers at the beginning. And Mr. Rogers was apparently homeless at the time. And the officer was there because somebody had called 911 alleging that somebody had taken a bike from a neighbor's yard. Here's a portion of the actual audio of the dispatch to Officer Edmonds.
See the complainant, 5110 Harriet Street off of West Penn Place in South Eveline. Calls reporting there was a male on her neighbor's porch stealing a bike. Black male, thin built, black t-shirt, gray sweatpants.
Copy, from East Liberty.
1024. 531 on your detail. They're saying that the actor is turning right on Eveline towards Liberty Avenue.
Copy, a description of the bike.
And no description of the bike just yet.
Alright, can you try to get one for me? 531, description on that male again, please.
Black male, thin, in his 50s, a black t-shirt with yellow writing, SLU on the back, gray sweatpants with a blue baseball cap.
Alright, I'm out with that male now.
I didn't do
Why'd you
that.
take the bike? Why were you
Alright, I'm out with that male
I
now.
thought somebody was giving it away. Because they had
how would you think that? Be quiet. How would you think that if you're going on somebody's porch?
Well, I didn't take nothing away. I didn't take it from him.
Okay, but did you go on someone's porch?
No, I didn't take it away. I didn't take nothing.
I didn't ask you that. I said, did you go on someone's porch?
No, sir. No, sir. No, sir, I didn't.
You got ID?
No,
Put your hands up. Just get your hands off your pocket. If you stick your hands in your pockets again, I'm going to take you to the ground. You understand that?
Yes, sir. I appreciate it.
Just for officer safety. Right now, I just want to make sure you don't have any weapons, okay?
Yes, sir. Okay, I have no
Don't
weapon.
do anything stupid.
I have no weapon.
Constitutionally speaking, the Fourth Amendment has now been implicated because this guy is being detained. This is an investigative detention. The guy does appear to match the description of a black shirt with the yellow writing. So that's probably enough for the officer to detain him and to investigate further, basically. But this officer appears to have skipped a couple of steps here. He is putting on his gloves, and it appears that he's about to search or frisk the guy. While he might have reasonable suspicion to investigate further and to hold the guy, ask him some questions, he doesn't yet have probable cause to arrest the guy. The guy has denied doing anything wrong. Therefore, he does not also have probable cause to search the guy without his consent because he doesn't have that evidence. He doesn't have that information yet. All he has is this basic reasonable suspicion, which is very easy to come by. And the officer appears to be about to frisk him. So he's putting on his gloves. And when can a police officer frisk somebody on a sidewalk like this? Well, what's that called? A Terry frisk. Police officers often think that they get to frisk anyone in the interest of officer safety, and you can hear this officer saying that here. What the case law says, what the Supreme Court has said, is that police officers can only perform this so-called Terry frisk where they have probable cause to believe that the individual they're dealing with is both armed and dangerous. Here, this guy has denied any wrongdoing. We don't have any indication or information that this guy is dangerous, has been convicted of some prior felony. He hasn't made any threats as far as we know. We're talking about an alleged stolen bicycle. The guy doesn't appear to be armed. He's denied being armed. He appears to have been polite and cooperative thus far. Therefore, there's no basis for a Terry frisk here. This is just this police officer bullying this guy, treating him like he's an armed and dangerous criminal just because it appears that's his policy to do so. Let's continue.
531, I'm at Harriet and West Penn Place right now with this male.
531, I'm at Harriet and West Penn Place right now with this male.
Your code status?
I'll be code 4 for now.
Yeah.
I'll be code 4 for now.
Any needles?
That's copy.
They're just gonna stick me.
No drugs, no needles.
I asked you if you had any needles. That's all I'm worried about.
Oh, no, sir, no needles. No, I just got
you got ID? Let me get your wallet out, okay? Okay? Keep your hands up.
No, I don't have them.
What did I just say? You have a wallet, right? Right?
Uh-huh.
Your wallet. This your wallet?
Where?
Alright, you're about to go in cuffs. Keep your hands up. That's the last time I'm gonna say it.
Yeah.
Is this your wallet or not?
No, that's there.
Excuse me.
Okay. Oh, yes, that's not my.
What did I say? Get on the ground. What did I say?
Okay, sir. Okay, I'm listening.
531 is Mel's.
I'm listening to you. I'm listening.
531 is Mel's.
I'm listening to you. I'm listening.
Step it up for the. Put your hands on your back. Or you're gonna get tased.
I'm listening to you, sir.
Now.
3533.
I'm listening to you.
Put your.
I'm listening to you, sir. I'm listening to you,
Put your
sir.
hands on your back. You're gonna get tased. Now.
As I mentioned, what is to happen next would end up costing the city, the taxpayers, $8 million, presumably not including the cost of defense on that. As in most of these cases, we can go back to the beginning like we've just done here and ask a police officer, why am I here? How did I get here? What is my goal? Do I really need to escalate the situation? What crime has been committed? The allegation is of a stolen bicycle. I don't even see the bicycle there. The caller did not even provide a description of the bicycle. How does that get escalated to this guy now is being violently thrown to the ground? A taser is being placed on his back. Was this really necessary? What interests are being served here? The issue isn't always, can I do this? Am I justified as a police officer in doing this? Why not ask, should I do this? That is what we are sorely missing in policing in the United States of America, in my opinion. So now it's come to violence. And what happens next is awful. And I'm not even going to try to show you in the context of this video what happens, because you wouldn't be able to see this video. It would be immediately age restricted by YouTube and probably would be a good call under their rules here, because this is one of the worst taserings that I've ever seen. First, the officer Edmonds puts his taser directly against Mr. Rogers' back and delivers a drive stun shock. Then about 30 seconds later, Rogers then gets up in apparent distress and tries to run away. But he's tased again, and his body goes completely stiff and he falls sideways into the lawn of this house. Rogers starts to sort of writhe on the ground. Then at 10:33 a.m., Rogers gets up and he tries to run again in apparent distress. Once more, Officer Edmonds tases him, causing him to fall completely straight-legged into the street. Rogers is sort of mumbling incoherently. And around this time in the video, a neighbor shouts at the police officer, "Would you give him a minute to collect himself?" So neighbors are filming. That's how this first came to light. Edmonds tells the woman to back off, and then he tases Rogers again. He then orders Rogers onto his stomach, but Rogers instead tries to scoot across the street. Again, in apparent obvious distress if you watch the video, which I'll link below. Edmonds rolls Rogers over several times, then backup officers arrive. Finally, they handcuff him at about 10:36 a.m. According to the 15-page internal report from the Pittsburgh Police Department, Officer Edmonds delivered at least 10 electrical bursts within 3 minutes and 15 seconds. Then the video shows Rogers being placed in the back of the police car at around 10:37 a.m. He's clearly struggling to breathe. He repeatedly strikes his head against the cage behind him for about 17 minutes. Several times it sounds like he's screaming in pain. The officers, Pat DeSaro and Gregory Boss, then leave for the hospital at 10:56 a.m. Stopping for traffic lights and not appearing to speed or exhibit any urgency at all as they chat with each other, they then arrived at the hospital 17 minutes after that, where they paused to put on their masks and gloves before finding Mr. Rogers unresponsive in the back seat of the police car. They tried to rouse him. Jimmy, come on, bud, come on, wake up. I don't know if he's breathing, bro, grab the medics. He would ultimately die. Remember that I've talked before in recent videos about deliberate indifference. Even assuming that the seizure of Mr. Rogers was completely justified under the Fourth Amendment, and even assuming that this use of excessive, in my opinion, violence against Mr. Rogers all over a bicycle, even assuming that that was justified, i.e. constitutional, under the Fourth Amendment, we have these officers being placed with knowledge that they had used violent physical force against this guy, and this one officer knew that he had tased Mr. Rogers 10 times. With this knowledge comes the responsibility to provide medical care, medical treatment for Mr. Rogers. So there is no excuse for their failure to do so, and to not just immediately get him medical care, and instead to just take their time while he dies. That is the very definition of deliberate indifference. And I have no doubt that is how this large settlement came to be, because that was going to be very easy to prove. And you can see in the video that the lawyers did, it really is fantastic. I wish I could show more of it. And they go over the transport part, and they show like 4 different angles, 4 different views of what the cops are seeing. And they show Mr. Rogers in the back of the car, and they show like a satellite view of where the car is running. And this would have been fantastic, just in a really bad way, to present to the jury. They would have gotten hammered at trial. So who knows? And that's why they ended up ponying up $8 million in this case. Just a plethora of civil rights violations here. I want to take it back to that very moment, because that's where I think we can affect change here. Because this is an American citizen walking down the sidewalk, and he's had troubles. I mean, he's homeless. He clearly has some mental issues. And instead of treating this man with kindness, treating him like a human being, he's treated like a piece of garbage. Not because he deserved it, but because that's how police officers have been trained to treat people. That if there's any resistance to their authority whatsoever, any questions asked, they stamp it out with overwhelming violence and a demonstration of their authority. And that even gets applied to allegations of stolen bicycles. I mean, just absolutely unnecessary. And there are other examples of this across the country. So I know videos like this can be depressing, but they're important to watch and discuss. So please subscribe.
Just sit with that for a minute. Antonia Jefferson, 2019, Fort Worth, Texas. Antonia Jefferson, 28 years old, black woman, was shot and killed by a Fort Worth police officer in her home. Jefferson's neighbor had called a non-emergency police number for a welfare check because her front door was open late at night. A fucking busybody neighbor. Like a person can't have their fucking front door open. The police arrived at her home, and they did not announce their presence. Officer Aaron Dean, who responded to the call, saw Jefferson through the window, and within seconds, he just shot her. No problem. 2014, Cleveland, Ohio, Tamir Rice. Tamir, 12 years old, black boy, playing with a gun in the park. A bystander called 911, reported a boy playing with a probably fake gun. Once again, a motherfucker need to mind their own goddamn business when you see a little boy playing. Like, who didn't grow up playing cops and robbers? The 911 dispatcher failed to relay the information to the officer that the gun was likely a toy. The officer pulled up on the scene. Within 2 seconds of exiting the patrol car, he shot and killed the 12-year-old boy. Justin Damon, 2017, 40-year-old. Justine Damon, 40 years old, was shot and killed by a Minneapolis police officer. When the officer arrived on the scene, he arrived at her house. He arrived on the scene. She approached the police officer's vehicle in her pajamas. The officer, sitting in the passenger seat, fired his weapon across his partner. So there was another cop in the car, out the side window, killing her. And she called the police because she thought she saw a sexual assault behind her house. And when the police showed up, she came out there to approach the police, and the guy, just for some fucking reason, decided to pull out his gun, shoot across his partner, and kill her. Jonathan Farrow, Charlotte, North Carolina, 24-year-old black man, was shot and killed by a Charlotte police officer. Farrell had crashed his car and was seeking help when he knocked on a nearby resident's door. I remember this. And the resident called thinking it was a burglary. Okay. When the police arrived, Jonathan was unarmed. He ran towards them, likely seeking assistance, and the officer fired 12 shots and killed him. And 10 of the shots hit him. Deborah Danner, 66-year-old black woman with schizophrenia, was shot and killed by New York Police Department in October 2016. Neighbors called the police because she was experiencing a mental health crisis. They told them that. And then when the officer arrived on the scene, she was holding a pair of scissors and eventually put them down. However, the sergeant decided to shoot her twice to kill her. Kenneth Chamberlain, White Plains, New York, 68-year-old black former Marine, was shot and killed by the police officer and police officer after his medical alert device was accidentally activated. He did not respond to calls from the alert company. The police arrived at Chamberlain's apartment for a welfare check, but he refused to let them in, stating he was fine. The situation escalated. Officer forced their way into his home, where Chamberlain was allegedly somewhere in the kitchen with a knife. Despite being tased and shot with beanbag guns, officers pulled out the gun, shot, and killed him. Sorry. Do me a favor. Stay away from police. The stakes are way too high. We'll see you next time on Through the Fire podcast, okay? I'm TJ. Thanks for sticking around with me.
Fuck the police coming straight from the underground. A young nigga got it bad cause I'm brown. And not the other color, so police think they have the authority to kill a minority. Fuck that shit cause I ain't the one for a punk motherfucker with a badge and a gun to be beaten on. And thrown in jail, we can go toe to toe in the middle of a sale. Fucking with me cause I'm a teenager with a little bit of gold and a pager. Searching my car, looking for the product. Thinking every nigga is selling narcotics. You rather see me in the pen than me and Lorenzo rolling in a benzo. Beat the police out of shape, and when I finish, bring the yellow tape to tape off the scene of the slaughter. Still getting swole up bread and water. I don't know if they fags or what. Search a nigga down and grabbing his nuts, and on the other hand, without a gun they can't get none. But don't let it be a black and a white one, cause they'll slam you down to the street top. Black police showing out for the white cop. Ice Cube will swarm on any motherfucker in a blue uniform. Just cause I'm from the CPT, punk police are afraid of me, huh? A young nigga on the warpath, and when I finish, it's gonna be a bloodbath of cops dying in LA. Yo, Dre, I got something to say. Fuck the police. Fuck the police. Fuck the police. Fuck the police. Example of scene one. Oh shit. Now what the fuck you pull me over for? Cause I feel like it. Just sit your ass on the curb and shut the fuck up. Man, fuck this shit. Alright, smart ass, I'm taking your black ass to jail. MC Ren, will you please give your testimony to the jury about this fucked up incident? Fuck the police, and Ren said it with authority. Because the niggas on the street is a majority of gang. It's with whoever I'm stepping. And a motherfucking weapon is kept in a stash spot for the so-called law. Wishing Ren was a nigga that they never saw. Lights start flashing behind me, but they're scared of a nigga, so they mace me to blind me. But that shit don't work, I just laugh, because it gives them a hint not to step in my path. For police, I'm saying fuck you, punk. Read my rights and shit, it's all junk. Pulling out of silly clubs.